So this particular trip to Florida ended up being a 13-day adventure. I had three main objectives for this trip. I wanted to attend a conference, visit with some friends, have some fun, and visit an archaeological site, which happens to be Florida's first archaeological state park. So be sure to stay tuned for that towards the end. So the conference was held at the beautiful Florida Hotel and Conference Center in Orlando, Florida. The hotel and conference center is attached to the Florida Mall, which has more stores than you can imagine. The conference was hosted by Prophecy Watchers, and they had a lineup of speakers which spoke on topics such as global politics, artificial intelligence, digital currencies, UFO disclosure, and biblical prophecy, just to name a few. Among the long list of speakers, three of the speakers were my personal friends who I've worked and filmed with both here in the United States and abroad. The man speaking on your screen right now is Mondo Gonzales, and he is one of the hosts of Prophecy Watcher. Mondo is also an archaeologist, and him and I have worked on two different research teams together in the past. Be sure to tune in to Prophecy Watchers, as Mondo always has new and interesting content coming out daily. And the next friend of mine who was also a speaker at the conference is L.A. Marzulli. L.A. is a historian, researcher, explorer, ufologist, biblical scholar, and filmmaker. L.A. is one of the pioneers of the topics that are covered in conferences like these. Through his many books and videos, L.A. brings you the truths that has been deliberately obfuscated from the people of the world. You can find daily content from L.A. Marzulli at YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X under his name, L.A. Marzulli. You can also visit his website at lamarzulli.net. And finally, Lee Brainard was also one of my friends at the conference. Lee and I met in Israel. We had several interesting conversations together concerning Nephilim, giants, and biblical topics. Later, I was a guest one evening on his YouTube channel called Soothkeep, where we spent about an hour discussing some of the things that we observed while we were in Israel. Lee is a researcher, explorer, biblical teacher, and has written several books. For more information about Lee and his ministry, you can reach him at soothkeep.info. You can also access Lee's content at these social media platforms. Lee, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to you speak at the conference. We were also blessed to have a video appearance by Prophecy Watcher's original host, Gary Stearman. And there were many members of the Prophecy Watcher staff that were on location, making sure that everything went smoothly. And behind the scenes was my friend Tyler Wood, making sure that this conference was being broadcast live to various parts of the world. And none of this would have been possible without the founder and CEO of Prophecy Watchers, Bob Ulrich, and his lovely wife, Chrissy. So my friend Amy had driven up from Sarasota for the final day of the conference, and after we ended up leaving the conference center, we headed out to meet Mondo and four women at this place. And now I'll share some of the highlights with you. Finally, the magic of Disney was over, and we were off further south to other adventures. One of the places that was south of Orlando that we visited was Lake Bonic, which is where Amy's mother lived, and also several fish, birds, and alligators. And this little guy. So Amy's mother's house is situated on the bank of a lake, where there's a dock and people keep their boats. Also, beside her house is a fish cleaning station. This station is equipped with a grinder that grinds up the remains of the fish after you clean them and discharges the remains out of the end of this pipe. The birds, fish, and gators have learned that when the sound of this pump kicks on, that is their dinner bell and dinner will soon be served, and they wait for the discharge at the end of the pipe. And the gators also show up for their fair share. So after watching the gators, we got on a golf cart and took a tour of the neighborhood. And we weren't the only ones enjoying the sun on the golf carts. Lots of Spanish moss in the trees, which I think is cool. And with gators being present, I think this sign was completely unnecessary. So after we said our goodbyes, we headed west towards Sarasota. So if you find yourself in Sarasota, two places you must visit are Marina Jacks and Bayfront Park. So on this particular day, I just enjoyed walking through the park, walking beside the marina, looking at all the boats and taking it all in. The weather was perfect, so I just grabbed a park bench and just sat there and watched the people go back and forth, watched the boats come in and out. It was just a real relaxing day. So I went to the Tiki Hut, I ordered some food, and I waited for Amy to get off work and join me. So towards the end of the day, Amy did find me. We shared a light meal together, and we waited for the sun to sink low in the sky. So the audio was really bad on this clip because of the wind, but what Amy was trying to describe is the sun setting in the background will set behind the Ringling Brothers Bridge, and there's many people that come to this park every day to watch the sunset. It's a real iconic place, and there's just a lot going on here. If you are a water enthusiast, if you like boating, this is the place to be. So the next day we went out to do what I do, and that's find archaeological sites to visit and study. So I pinpointed one on the map, we jumped in the car, headed out, and we actually saw some really nice bayfront property on the way to this site. All right, so we've just reached the Madira Mound site. It's a state archaeological site near Palmetto, Florida, and we're gonna tour the site. We haven't even stepped in yet. There's a couple of mounds here to look at, and there's some interesting facts about this site, and I'm gonna let Amy tell you a little bit more about that.
Carl and Madira Bickle donated the mound and surrounding property to the state in 1948. The flat-topped ceremonial mound, composed of sand, shell, and village debris, measures 100 by 170 feet at the base and is 20 feet in height. Archaeological excavations has disclosed at least 3 periods of Native American cultures, the earliest dating back 2,000 years. It's located off US 19 in Palmetto. Madira Bickle Mound State Archaeological Site, ancient Native American life 1,000 years ago. This large ceremonial mound and the adjacent Prine burial mound were part of an extensive Native America village and mound complex, now called the Terra Sierra site, that once occupied much of this peninsula. Donated to the state by Carl Madira Bickle and Mr. and Mrs. R.H. Prine, this 10-acre park is nearly all that remains because of residential development and road building. Research indicates that these mounds were constructed and used from approximately 1,500 to 800 years ago, a time referred to as the Weeden Island period. Large flat-top mounds such as Madira Bickle typically had large structures on top for ceremonial events or as residence for important persons. This site is one of several similar mound complexes in the Tampa Bay area. So this is wood, fiber, shell, and bone. Evidence indicates that mats, baskets, and fish traps like the one pictured above were fashioned from grasses, reeds, vines, and shell, so that's how they captured fish. Bone tools. Bone from fish and mammals was used to manufacture a variety of useful items ranging from fish hooks, sewing needles, projectile points, and decorative objects such as hairpins, clasps, and amulets. And then conch and other types of shells were hafted to wooden handles to form various axes and hammers. Oh my goodness, that's a conch shell.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
You got one of those ones?
Yeah.
All right, so we're standing at the base of the ceremonial center in this mound complex. There's only 2 identifiable mounds that are left here. One of them's a burial, and we'll show you that in a few minutes. But this seems to be a platform mound or a step pyramid type mound. I think probably in times past, before erosion happened to this site, that there was probably different tiers or different levels of this mound. I went and looked at it just now, and we come back down at the bottom to see some of the size of the bottom, to see how big it is. There's so much vegetation here that it's hard to see the mound, but it's a real steep mound. It goes down real steeply on each side, and it took a lot of physical labor to put this thing together. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of people contributing dirt and compacting it down, and there's also a lot of shells and different organic material incorporated into this mound. So it's an interesting site, and it is Florida's first state archaeological site, I believe, and we're going to explore it a little bit more. We'll show you the burial mound in just a few minutes.
This is the flat-topped ceremonial mound. It's composed of sand, shell, and village debris. It measures 100 by 170 feet at the base and is 20 feet in height.
All right, so we're about at the midway point on the climb up to the top of the mound, and this is a flat-top mound. There would have been some type of hut or dwelling place, either for the chief or the leader of this tribe, and it would probably be a place of worship. I haven't checked it out just yet. There's probably some kind of alignment that has to do with the rising of the sun here, and I'll be looking at that later. I'll try to illustrate something on your screen. But I said something about this being a step pyramid, and what I was referring to is the place where we are right now seems like it's a level spot. If you pan over this way, you can, I don't know if the camera will do it justice, but it's pretty steep. And then if you look over this side, it even just kind of just drops off on this side. And so this seems like a secondary level of this mound, and then there will be another climb up to the primary top level. And so that's why I believe this might be a step pyramid, which is typical with this culture. So we're at the top of this mound. This would be the ceremonial center. You can see there's not very much space up here, but there would be enough space for some kind of dwelling or some kind of protection from the wind and the rain. And there would be probably objects of their worship in this building, and maybe something like a shaman or some kind of priestly figure for this congregation of people. And at this point here, the mound slopes down steeply all the way around us. So there's lots of Spanish moss you can see in the trees, but if you look down over this rail here, you can see covered in vegetation, and it steeply drops off all the way around. Okay, it does look like the flat portion of this mound extends about 10 or 15 feet beyond this railing. So there's actually more space up here than what it looks like, but the rail is just put up here to keep people from trampling on the mound and helping with the erosion process. We're trying to preserve it. So you can see it extends on out. So there would be a place here for a pretty good sized dwelling. So I'm down at the base now. We're still inside the complex. I'm going to be talking about this mound behind me in just a minute. Before I do, I have access to LiDAR, and I pulled a LiDAR an image of this site while on top of the ceremonial mound, and it appears that there's a ramp that leads up to that mound other than this artificial walkway that they've built here, which is typical of sites like this. You find ramps leading up to the top of ceremonial mounds. Even in Egypt, with some of the pyramids are built like that. So this is handed down for centuries. This type of structure. You find the same thing at Cahokia. You find the same thing at Poverty Point. So all has to do with the type of religion that they had, the type of worship that they did. But behind me is a burial mound, and it's likely that the chief of this tribe would have been buried on this mound because it's so close to the ceremonial mound. Now, there's other mounds that I've just discovered that are on the other side of this street over here, this road, out in the greenery you see out there, the trees. And so the site curator probably does not know about the additional mounds out there. So those are not protected, but I'll be able to point them out to you. I'll put a picture up on the screen of the LiDAR image and point them out to you. But this would probably be where the elite of this tribe would have been buried, and then the common people would probably be buried in secondary mounds that are off complex here.
We just finished touring the complex, and it's just nice that we have people like Carl and Madira who donated sites like this that became Florida's first archaeological state park site for these mounds. They donated that property in 1948, and we thank them for that.
So we made it back to the truck. If you're in the greater Sarasota area, it'll be good for you to come by and visit this nice little park. It's a good little day hike for you. They have a picnic table where you can rest, and they have signage here that tells you a little bit about the place. Also, it was good to have my guest and guide Amy McClanahan with me here today. She's been a guest on our show before, and she probably will be on a show in the future. So like, subscribe, and share with a friend, and stay tuned for future episodes on Brainard Outdoors. And we'll see you again soon. What are you doing, Bird? Where's the squirrel at?
Better not take me.
There's that little guy, whatever his name is. Okay. There's that dude. I don't know none of those people. And I think all of this...
I'm gonna roll the window down so it'll be clear.
I guess.
Oh boy! Oh boy. Oh really? You got me picking my nose?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
look at this Spanish moss in the tree. No doubt, no swimming. There's alligators in there. Don't pick your nose.
Okay.
Oh, you filming? He stole it from me.
Wait. Madira, Bickle,
No.
Mound State Archaeological Site. Hi, we just finished touring the complex of the ceremonial ground and the burial mound. Sorry, start over.
So stay tuned and stay.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.